What's going on, guys? CrustyKs here from the Gold Boys Network, coming to you to talk about this college basketball slate for Tuesday, Super Tuesday, an absolutely massive slate, loaded slate at that. Excited to talk about it. As I am recording this, none of the games for the Monday slate have finished yet, so don't have a recap just yet, but we obviously will have that in the comments of this one. Jump right into this slate here. The first one we're going to talk about, probably one of the most popular games in this slate, Tennessee traveling to Florida to take on the Gators. For me here, if you're in the Discord, we already posted this one. Florida on the money line. I like them on the money line. I like them -2.5, up to -2.5. This is the spot. Tennessee, undefeated Tennessee, obviously one of the best teams in the country. I'm not denying that. But this is where they get their first loss. We give Florida off the loss to Kentucky, which we were on Kentucky. That was a great cash for us. Now where we get the chance to back Florida and a good matchup for them. Tennessee, obviously elite defensively. The one thing they struggle with, just because of the way their defense is, they allow a ton of threes. A ton. 352nd in three-point attempts allowed. It's almost the most in the entire country. They've been fortunate because they played a lot of teams who don't shoot the three particularly well, which makes their three-point defense look better than it actually is in terms of the make percent. But obviously you're going to see a Florida team that's a volume three-point team. They've had their own struggles from three. I'm not going to sit here and say they haven't, but on their home floor, you're going to see them chuck threes. We all know that. Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, these guys can knock them down in a hurry. And I think they do just that. This will be, I believe, this will be Tennessee's first conference road game, just their third road game of the season. And their previous two, they blew out Louisville, which that was super early in the season. And their most recent one against Illinois, I believe they won that one like last second shot. So this will be a tough road test, obviously playing at Florida. I like the Gators to bounce back. I like them to hand Tennessee their first loss. Give me Florida on the money line, like I said, -2.5. If you can't get the money line at a playable price, I'm good with that as well. So moving through this slate here, the next one I want to talk about is we're going to go Marquette at home taking on Georgetown, laying 12.5 points. For me here, I love Marquette to cover this number. You get a Marquette team who, if you pay attention to them, if you looked at the numbers lately, they haven't covered a spread they haven't covered a spread at home in conference play. Haven't covered a double-digit spread in quite some time. So I think you look at this, and I think public perception, Georgetown's rolling. I won't deny that. Definitely one of the hotter teams in college basketball. But you take a look at their strength of schedule, and overall 333rd in strength of schedule. That's not good. And so they beat Xavier in the last game. Xavier was getting Fremantle back, kind of. I don't know. It was a weird situation. But, Georgetown, by all accounts, has pretty much rolled through conference play so far. 3-0 in conference play. Massive win over Creighton where they blew them out. Seton Hall was a one that they were in control pretty much the entire game and blew it, and ended up being just a 1-point game by the end of it. But they were, if you watch that game, they pretty much dominated for 35 minutes of the 40. So for me here with Shaka Smart, I like him a lot, like him as a coach. I think Marquette kind of gives Georgetown a wake-up call here. Like I said, I think that Georgetown getting 12.5 points is going to be extremely appealing to a lot of people because you look at them, you see the record, you see what they've done lately. And, who wouldn't want to get 12.5 points with like one of the hottest teams in college basketball? Well, I think that 12.5 points is pretty telling. I think Marquette absolutely rolls here. So give me Marquette -12.5. Rolling through these games here. Like I said, this slate is insane. I could talk about so many of these games. Next we're going to talk about, though, this one was a little surprising to me. Mississippi State traveling to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt actually favored in this spot, which I thought was incredibly interesting. So this falls into that unranked home fave over a ranked opponent. But as I mentioned in previous videos, for me to play these spots, I can't just play them blind. The basketball part has to make sense to me, and this one doesn't. So for that reason, and honestly, because of the matchup, I love Mississippi State at with a +1.5. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point this line does flip and Mississippi State ends up favored. I'd be shocked if it actually moves towards Vandy at all. Like I said, it is the unranked, home fave versus ranked opponent. I get that, but the basketball part has to make sense for me to play it, and this one it just does not. Mississippi State, an extremely physical team, we all know that. Force a ton of turnovers. They don't turn the ball over. They offensive rebound really well. And this will be easily the most physical team that Vanderbilt has faced this season. You look at Vanderbilt's schedule, 338th in strength of schedule, another team that hasn't really played anybody. You get 13-1. I would say their best win here, just looking at their schedule, on the road at LSU, but LSU is really nothing to write home about. So I'm not sure how much stock you want to put into that. So looking at this game, like I said, Vanderbilt is a team, they shoot a lot of twos. They are elite from inside the arc. The problem with that, though, you're facing Mississippi State, who is 310th in allowing points from the two, so they don't allow a lot of twos. Very tough team in the paint. We all know that. It's a big physical team. So I think this matchup is just absolutely brutal for Vandy. I think, like I said, every once in a while you get these spots with this unranked home fave thing where the books know that. I mean, everybody knows that system. This is a system that everybody knows, and the books know it too. So you drop a Vandy -1.5 against the ranked opponent, you're going to get some action on it. I don't think that's the right side, though, here. I want Mississippi State plus the 1.5. If you want to take them on the money line, that's fine, too. They win this game. Moving through this slate, once again, let's do Michigan traveling to UCLA. So if you're in, I guess I can just give it out because it moved already. If you're in Gold Boys, we got UCLA at -2.5. It has since moved to 3.5. I still like it there. This is a really tough spot for Michigan. Obviously, they're off the win against USC. We were on them there. Great cash for us. Now we're going to fade them. So UCLA is a team, forced a ton of turnovers, one of the highest forced turnover rates in college basketball, facing Michigan, who is one of the highest turnover teams in all basketball. So this will be an extremely tough spot for them. Just going against the UCLA defense that really just does the stuff well that they don't do well. And then if you look at the way UCLA plays defense, they're really good at limiting their opponents inside the arc, particularly in the paint, which obviously is where a lot of Michigan's points come from with Golden and Wolf. They operate out of there. And so I think if you're forcing this Michigan team to shoot a lot of threes, they've been pretty inconsistent from three. They don't have guys who shoot three particularly well outside of like two guys. And I just think if you're forcing them to play a game that really isn't necessarily the game they want to play, I think they struggle. I think that's where UCLA thrives. I think because they're going to be able to get this Michigan team to play a brand of basketball that they don't necessarily feel comfortable playing. That's where UCLA kind of takes this game over and I think covers this game relatively comfortably. Obviously, Michigan, one of the better teams in the country. I think that they're, I think they are legit. I'm not going to say they're not. But for me here, it's just a bad spot. It's a bad matchup. I like UCLA -3.5. The last one we're going to talk about here, New Mexico taking out Wyoming. New Mexico laying 7.5 points on the road. This Wyoming team, in my opinion, is a bad team. Probably one of the worst teams in the Mountain West. If you're looking at them defensively, nothing to write home about. 161st in opponent effective field goal percentage. They turn the ball over a ton, which against New Mexico is going to be a brutal fucking spot. A brutal spot for them because New Mexico forced a ton of turnovers. So I like New Mexico here. Like I said, I just think this is a really tough matchup. Wyoming, a team that does foul quite a bit, again, makes this a really tough spot because New Mexico's a team that's really good at getting to the free throw line, good at attacking the basket, drawing a lot of contact. Stylistically, this is just a great spot for New Mexico coming off that. They did beat Nevada, but they went to overtime and they had to kind of steal that one. I don't know if you saw that. It was like one of the craziest shots I've ever seen. I like them to win a lot more convincing here. Like I said, this is a bad Wyoming team in my opinion. So I like New Mexico to take advantage even on the road. 7.5. This is a pretty fat spread in my opinion. I think Wyoming is simply outmatched here. If we're looking at the matchup, New Mexico's going to push the pace. And obviously Wyoming wants to play incredibly slow. If New Mexico can push the pace and kind of run their offense the way they do, which they probably can because, like I said, it's a team that does turn the ball over a lot. So if they're turning it over, New Mexico should be able to get out and run, play in transition like they want to. And if you're speeding Wyoming up, they're going to struggle because they don't have the guys that can shoot and keep in this game in a faster paced game. So give me New Mexico -7.5. I think they probably win this thing by 15 plus. There's the 5 games I want to talk about though. There are a ton of more games we could talk about, but I don't want this video to be longer than about 10 minutes. So as always, you can get all my official plays at goldboys.com. If you have a gambling problem, don't want to hurt a gambler. Thanks guys.